Go ahead and call for the question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is general functions. And staff, student and community recognitions. Mr. Crew.
Thank you, President Tippett, members of the board. We have a few people here to present their staff recognitions in person. First up is Ms. Krista Field, followed by Mr. Ken Graff.
Good evening, President Tippett, Superintendent Crew, members of the board. I wanted to take this opportunity to acknowledge several contributions to our Copper Ridge community. First, I would like to commend Ms. Bay, who is in her first year as our Copper Ridge Student Council Advisor. She has done an incredible job organizing the candidates, practicing their speeches with them, and supporting the election assembly and process. Her commitment and enthusiasm play a vital role in enriching our school community. I'd also like to recognize Hannah Novinsky and Lori Spies for their outstanding work with our National Elementary Honor Society. Mrs. Novinsky tirelessly worked through applications and teacher recommendations, while Mrs. Spies welcomes 15 new additional members to our NHS. We even had the pleasure of welcoming back Austin Nielsen, who is a senior at Cienega and previously attended Copper Ridge. Let's see. Oh, wow. Wow. That was fun. It was wonderful to see our parents just being with pride for all of the students and their great achievements. Finally, I want to highlight an exemplary display of our school's supportive culture and testament to the importance of building relationships between students, staff, and families in our community. One of our teachers, Mrs. Novinsky, faces significant personal and family challenges that no one should face. Our staff and community have come together in many ways to offer support, and I would like to recognize a few of those individuals today. I want to thank parents and community members, Melissa Black, Audrey Fagley, Kaylin Metter, and Ashley Payne for waking up early, donning some beautiful yellow vests, and opening doors and greeting our students for multiple mornings over the past weeks to fulfill a crucial role. I would also like to thank Mary Garcia and Christina Nalbon for dedicating many hours to support our cluster teachers and myself in our gifted and talented programs. And additionally, I want to express my extreme gratitude to our Copper Ridge PTA, Kaylin Metter, and the entire staff and community who generously contributed their time, talents, baking, snow cone making, and cooking skills to support Mrs. Novinsky and her family whenever or wherever needed. So these actions are a testament to the incredible community at Copper Ridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Field. Mr. Graff.
Thank you, Mr. Crew, President Tippett, members of the board. Very similar recognition. This is that time of year that we get a lot of our student leadership groups up and going. So first, I would like to recognize LaKasha Beck. She's a third grade teacher, but she's our student council advisor. And so she started the whole, campaign process with our kids. And, when you have your fourth and fifth graders, they're getting up in front of, 400 students and, telling them why they should be, the president, the vice president, et cetera. And they have a supportive adult right behind them, helping them through the process. It just makes it that much more comfortable for the kids. And LaKasha Beck does an outstanding job helping grow those student leaders. And also tomorrow night, Sycamore is having its National Elementary Honor Society induction. So first of all, thank you, Board Member King, for being one of our guest speakers. But our advisor is fourth grade Casey, that's right, 2 first names. She just does such a great job of just supporting the kids, encouraging the kids to apply for Honor Society, working with our teachers to review the applications, to make sure that they're meeting the citizen standards, the academic standards to be part of the Honor Society, and then just organizing just a wonderful evening tomorrow and just honoring the students for their hard work academically and also just for being amazing citizens, in our community and especially at Sycamore. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Graff. I have a couple of district-wide recognitions. Just want to acknowledge First is both a recognition and a reminder that parent-teacher conferences will begin tomorrow and run through Friday for our respective grade levels. Our high school will be running Wednesday and Thursday. Our pre-K through 8th grade will be running Thursday and Friday. And this is an incredible time to build relationships with parents around their most precious gift is their children. And I just want to thank our staff, in particular our teachers and principals and others who will be attending those things, for leaning into our motto of where education is a community effort. It happens at those tables and those conversations around young people in our community. So want to acknowledge that those will be happening. Want to thank those who make those happen well. I also want to acknowledge just a district-wide recognition. I was reflecting this morning as I was getting ready about volunteer service and the number of people who volunteer in our community. And I think it is sometimes forgotten or missed that our board members are volunteers. And I was tallying the number of hours over the last 14 days that I think is the minimum number of volunteer hours that each respective board member has put in over those last 14 days. And I came up well over 40 hours between board meeting last 2 weeks ago and study session, various school events, board retreat to focus on what this body is doing and your intent with that. And then a minimum of 2 days at the ASBA Law Conference, including some of you who took trips back to the school district to honor and welcome students, and then spent Saturday there as well, and not to mention tonight. And so I think it's worth pausing in this busy time of year when everybody is busy and the calendar is full of events that we have an amazing army of volunteers in our school district, and you all are leading by example in that manner. And it's worth thanking you and calling that out publicly. That's all we have for staff, student, and district recognitions this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Kruth. Next item on the agenda is call to the public. At this time, the board may consider and discuss comments and concerns from the public. Those wishing to address the governing board on items not on tonight's agenda may do so at this time. Speakers are requested to hold their comments to 3 minutes, and in accordance with Arizona open meeting law, the board may not respond, comment, or ask questions of speakers regarding issues not on tonight's agenda. So we do have one request to speak tonight, and that's going to be Ms. Kristen Burton. You can go ahead and come forward.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Burton. Earlier today, I emailed the board and Mr. Peru outlining some of my concerns for safety of students at Micah Mountain softball program. I am here tonight to voice those concerns and have it on record. I've had several meetings with Mr. Hassey, Mr. Campos, and Mr. Peru, which have led to no action. I was a volunteer softball coach at Micah Mountain for 4 months in the past spring. So I witnessed firsthand the culture of fear surrounding the softball program. I know many girls suffered mentally as well as physically, my daughter included. Many tears were shed on that field by many players from the mental abuse they suffered, and I can't imagine the tears when they got home. I am here to speak up for the girls that are too afraid to come forward. I fear for many of them that they do not have an out. Their parents will make them play softball because for many, they have played their whole life with dreams of playing in college. They will suffer in silence, afraid to speak up, and they have good reason. When my daughter and I came forward with our concerns, I was let go from my coaching position, and she was punished with playing time and being excluded from playoffs and team banquets. Now the girls all know that this has happened. They know that we have came forward and that the coach has remained on staff. The fear will only grow
and I'm afraid that the school will not take action until something drastic happens. I plead with you to have someone outside of the school speak with each of the girls from the program in a safe space where they can express concerns. I guarantee that the concerns will be shared. Sorry. I just want to add, hearing these other people from the community, I've been a part of the community for 15 years. I always was so prideful of the Vail schools and what they gave my children. And to listen to these people that I know give so much and to see what has happened, my Mountain softball program is heartbreaking for me. I had a son that graduated from Empire. I always found myself in that same pride. I've been a volunteer in the school districts for many years. I spent 3 hours a day, 6 days a week on that softball field this spring for 4 months, only to be thanklessly let go for something that I didn't do anything for. So my family has been greatly impacted, and students that I have been a part of their lives since they were in kindergarten at Sonata Valley, besides my daughter, are being impacted as well. And that's why I chose to come here tonight to speak on their behalf and hope that something can be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Burton. Next item on the agenda is acknowledgement of public requests to speak. Is there anyone wishing to address the board on items that are on tonight's agenda tonight? Not seeing any, we'll go ahead and move forward to correspondence and reports. Mr. Crew.
Thank you, President Tippett and members of the board. Just a couple of announcements and reminders. First is this Saturday at Micah Mountain High School is our Vail Family Connections Day. Just want to call attention to that. It is a day where we partner with religious leaders in our community and other community groups to hold a day of connection, learning, and fun for families, and where we learn together, laugh together, and grow together. As powerful as the event is and the content that is there, what I think is most impactful about the day is the demonstration that organizations where many places, many beliefs are that you can't or shouldn't work together, don't, where we stand up and show our young people in particular that we have so much more in common than things that might divide us, and we make that work. So that is this Saturday at Micah Mountain High School from 9 until 1, I believe. I don't have the flyer in front of me. Just a reminder of that. Unfortunately, which is also part of my report, I will not be able to be there. I have to miss this event as I'm a part of one of a handful of superintendents across the state who've been invited by a group from the Institute for Education and the Economy at NAU to join another handful of business leaders and colleges and educations to reimagine high school and the high school experience and the transition from high school to college, and what are some both legislative priorities that we can begin to look at as a state to improve the outcomes of students once they leave high school, whether that be in college or in their work career. So that's an all-day, I have an all-day retreat that day, so I won't be able to be there, but we'll be well represented. And that's all I have for superintendent's report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Next item on the agenda are board reports. Do any board members have a report to give at this time? Mr. Buster?
I hate to be long-winded, but so on August 29th, I had the amazing opportunity to be the guest speaker for Miss Karen Hall's 8th grade classes at Corona Foothills Middle School. The students asked insightful questions about my background, including how long I lived in Arizona, my educational journey, and my personal life. They were curious about the role and purpose that the school board plays, as well as my reasons for running and whether or not I had another job. Everybody seems to think this is a full-time paid career position. Well, we discussed the election process, my responsibilities on the board, and how my middle school and high school experiences prepared me for this role. They didn't. I shared my weekly time commitment to the school board business, my favorite memory from serving, and offered advice to the 8th graders. We also talked about the importance of voting in local and national elections. I want to say huge thanks to Margaret Stewart, Miss Karen Hall, total teachers that participated, and especially the incredible 8th graders that welcomed me into their assembly. So huge thanks to each and every one of them. On August 30th, John Caruth, along with members of the board, and I attended our board retreat facilitated by Calvin Baker. We discussed various topics, including open items from our previous retreat, board norms, district goals, and board goals. These discussions aim to prepare us for the upcoming year's challenges and opportunities. Additionally, we enjoyed delivering multiple joy drops throughout the district offices, expressing sincere appreciation to the numerous district departments, educators, and staff. Immeasurable appreciation to Calvin Baker for sharing his bonus time with us. Executive Secretary Cindy Peterson for ensuring a very successful joy drop, and everyone at the district office that allowed us a little bit of their time to share in a little fun and celebration of Vail Unified School District. Routinely, we ask students and educators to stay current through professional development for growth, leadership, and to inspire others. Last week, I enjoyed the wonderful opportunity to attend the Arizona School Board Association's 47th Annual Law Conference with John Caruth and fellow board members. As a lifelong learner, it was fantastic to meet, network, inspire others, and learn about school policy, new and existing educational laws, and how artificial intelligence is being employed by students, educators, and the associated policies implemented by school boards throughout Arizona. I also cherished attending the Black Alliance meeting and engaging in poignant discussions with incoming ASBA President-elect Deo de la Hoya, and having topical discussions with our new ASBA Executive Director, Justin Rice. Justin brings a wealth of experience as a CEO, educator, and lobbyist, making her a dynamic leader for ASBA as we continue our mission to support and advocate for Arizona's public schools, students, and education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buster. Would any other board members like to follow that? That's kind of how I felt about it. Mrs. Anderson.
I just want to, I'm going to second what he said, is at least about the retreat and the law conference, and I won't go into that, but I'm grateful for being there and the classes that I was able to attend. I've been serving on the Vail Family Connections Day Committee, and we are gearing up for this Saturday and looking forward to that. So we've been working on that, and I was able to attend the meeting for that yesterday as we're finalizing everything. It does start at 8:30 if you want breakfast. So, and then the classes, that starts, the rest of it will start around 9 o'clock until 1 o'clock. So, so come, everyone come. So thank you.
Yeah. Any other board reports? Mrs. Pratt?
I feel like I just need to kind of ditto what Ed said. I didn't do half of what you did, but specifically on the board retreat and the law conference, I appreciate the opportunity to attend both and to participate in both. It's a great opportunity for us as a board to be able to collaborate together and make goals, and then at the law conference to be able to learn very relevant things. So I'm very appreciative of the opportunity. Thank you.
Mr.
Sure, I'll throw some in. Yes, we attended the retreat and the law conference and everything else. I also got the bonus extended stay to chair the delegate assembly, where we actually came up with the legislative priority. So I did the chairing aspect of it. So, but the organization itself, the members of the organization actually chose what the legislative priorities are going to be. And you can't forget that our wonderful HR people, Katie Dabney and Laura Hensley, were also at the law conference, and we were learning about Title IX issues. So, and we got to cherry pick and sharpshoot some of the experts. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Excuse me, one moment. If I could,
Mr. Buster.
would you please elaborate on Patriots Day?
Oh. Okay, so 5:30 Friday morning, I left Scottsdale and drove back here to Acacia Elementary School so we could attend the Patriot Day celebrations. So that was a wonderful opportunity, getting to see the kids and people from the community all come together, watching the kids, give speeches and sing songs and everything else. But I think honestly, the highlight of the day was the Homeland Security helicopter flying really, really low with an American flag hanging out the side. And on the second loop, hit the sirens and watching the kids almost jump out of their skin. So, and then shortly after that, I jumped back on the road and got back to Scottsdale so I could catch, the afternoon session.
Busy guys. I had the opportunity to join the board for those two really important events that we do as an organization, just to make sure that we are healthy in the way that we interact with each other, and that we're leading the goals that we have set for ourselves as a board. And also, it's so important that we take time to do that continuing education piece, make sure that our district is aligned with all the changes that happen in education law after every legislative session. And so it's really critical that we have the opportunity to dig into that. It's always really informative, and also just enjoy having the opportunity to spend some time together. I also third the Vail Family Connections Day, and free breakfast, free family education sessions. These are going to be learning opportunities or fun learning opportunities, depending on which session you decide to choose. And then a free lunch along with a family fun fest. So really something for every family. Even grandparents would be able to find applicable breakout sessions for them as they are interacting with their grandchildren. So encourage the community to attend. I also just wanted to take a minute to give a shout out to all of our student services coordinators within the Vail School District. In our school districts, we have student services coordinators, and what their responsibility is to help connect families of students with resources that they may need to help their child be successful in class. And sometimes that can be connecting them with resources outside of the school, of the schools, or with resources within the school. And I have the honor to lead Greater Vail Community Resources, and we administer the Weekend Meals to Grow program. And that program provides meal bags for children over the weekend when families just need a little bit of extra support. That program has continued to grow month after month and year after year. Currently our student services coordinators are helping connect over 490 students to this program every week, making sure kiddos grab those bags, get those home, so that they have the resources they need over the weekend. And it's a huge effort that they're undertaking. And I want to appreciate them for the hard work that they do that help make sure education can happen in the classrooms and kiddos don't have to worry about things that they shouldn't need to worry about. And so thank you to them. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up our board reports, and we'll move on to the consent agenda. All items listed below are consent matters and will be considered by one motion at this time. There will be no discussion of consent items. Any board member may remove an item from the consent agenda by request. All items not accepted and approved as part of the consent agenda will be considered individually. Do any board members wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Not seeing any, I'll go ahead and ask Mr. Karut to make the motion.
Thank you, President Tippett. Members of the board, it's recommended that the Vail School District Governing Board approve all items on the consent agenda as presented.
I'll accept the motion.
I make a motion to accept or to approve the consent agenda as approved or as presented.
Mr. King moves.
Seconded.
And Mr. Buster seconds. Any opposed? Oh, I'll call for the question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is old business. And let's see, this is our ASBA policy advisory updates. Mr. Creek.
Thank you, President Tippett and members of the board. This item was studied at the last board meeting. It's a slate of our governing board policy updates that are tied to changes in the law. There's a few of them that are there that have simply language cleanups to modernize them. I'm happy I went through each one individually at the last meeting of the study session. I'm happy to go through any of them individually again, if you would like. I think in lieu of doing that, I'll simply make the recommendation. And if you have questions on that, at that time, I'd be happy to dive in to those. So I'll go ahead and make the recommendation that the Vail School District Governing Board approve the Arizona School Board Association's policy advisories as presented.
I'll accept a motion.
Seconded.
Mrs. Pratt moves and Mr. Buster seconds. This is an action item. So is there any comments or questions regarding policy advisories? Okay, not seeing any. Thanks for giving us the opportunity to study these in depth last week so that we had the time to bring up any concerns that may arise. And also appreciate having access to legal counsel to help us make sure we're following the law. So with that, I will go ahead and call for the question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is policy and rental rates of school facilities by the community. Mr. Cruz.
Thank you, President Tippett, members of the board. This item was also studied extensively at the last meeting. Mr. Wood and Mr. Renee Aguilar, who runs that program, made the presentation. I'll summarize it this evening, and so we'll go back and do the full presentation again. Functionally, our facilities are public facilities, and we want to make them available to our community. We rent them at as low a cost as possible, especially to community groups. There's tiers all the way up to a business group can rent it, and there's a higher rate for that if you're a business. There's two fundamental issues. One, we can't give away resources, and so we must make sure that we are recouping cost of what it of the usage of facilities. When we do that, and our costs are primarily the wear and tear in the facility and the need for replacement, and two, the payment of staff who are needed to help clean, open, and prepare the facility for rentals. So I think in my time in the Vail School District, which has been a long time now, I think we've increased these rates once. And that was a long time ago, somewhere between at least 10 years ago, probably closer to 20. And a lot of costs have gone up in that time period. So we're looking at bringing the rates back in line with where they were about 10 or 15 years ago, as far as what our costs are to recoup relative to staff time and utilities. and within that margin. So that's one issue. The other issue is just cleaning up some language in the facility rental document for those who are renting our facilities. And we've had some issues with those who are renting being delinquent for extended period of time, well in excess of 3 months delinquent on payment. And then they continue to rent. And so we just tightened up the language around that. Again, we want to do that in good faith with our community and assume good faith, but when that isn't available, it ties up that facility for use by our schools or community and potentially other renters. And the other is cancellation of facility rentals. Again, it's not pervasive, but there's enough of a pattern of those who rent our facilities and subsequently not using the facility and not calling to let us know that they're canceling it, which has the purpose of tying up that facility so our schools can't use them or our community can't use them. So just some language in there that if that is a persistent practice, we can notify them and or require that they take a period of time away from us from renting that facility. So delinquent payments, cancellation of facility rentals, and then a facility rental increase. In general, you can look at that in the background. The increased amount would be 20% for those rental fees. And again, I'm happy to go through any of the rental fees that you're talking about, but they're low. The cost is low. And when you put in practice the 20%, it's still a very reasonable amount and in line with what other districts across the region are charging. So if that is in place, if the board approves that this evening, the intent would be to put the policy changes, i.e. those for around delinquent payment and the cancellation of rental facilities into practice beginning October 1st and not imposing rate increases to those would begin on January 1st of 2025, just to give us time to continue to work with those who are renting our facilities. Obviously, we have a wide range of those who rent from us, from a single field for one time period, which is a very low amount, to organizations who are renting NPRs and multiple classrooms and multiple buildings and do that regularly. So there may be some room depending upon the organization, to make some adjustments based on what those things are. But we want this particular package to reflect what we hope others who come to us and want to rent our facilities will do in the future. So Mr. Wood is here, can also answer additional questions if you have them, but I'll go ahead and make the recommendation that the Vail School District Governing Board approve the policy and rental rates for school facilities by the community as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Kruth. I'll accept a motion.
Motion to approve as presented.
Mr. Buster moves
Second.
and Mr. King seconds. Any comments or questions? Mrs. Pratt?
I appreciate that we studied this previously, and that also specifically that you reached out to some of the rental partners to get feedback before we voted on this. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Buster?
Just short but sweet. Care of our public facilities, recoup of those costs to make sure that we preserve these spaces for student use, to me just makes good sense. So to me, this is really a no-brainer. This is what needs to happen.
Any other comments or questions? I also appreciate a grace period, so we have the opportunity to communicate with everybody and have them have the opportunity to prepare for some of those adjustments. I think that'll help for a smooth transition. And so with that, we'll go ahead and call for the question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is educational technology information and update.
Thank you, President Foote and members of the board. We spent the study session going through this as well, where you not only got to learn about it, but to participate with some of it. We wanted just as Mr. Breen is coming to do an informed item on this, just want to acknowledge that we have a very robust education work. And related to that, we are very focused on learning outcomes for students, in particular around the Arizona academic standards and that process. Educational technology is something that is uniquely woven through those processes to help enhance and accelerate those outcomes. And we work really hard at making that a seamless process. So just wanted an opportunity to talk about what that looks like, for Mr. Breen to talk about that and share some of the things that we're doing as a school district. Also with Mr. Breen is Miss Emily Marshall, who has her hands all over the controls of this too. So Mr. Breen, take it away.
Thank you, President Tippett, Mr. Caruth, members of the governing board. Thank you for your time. And thanks for the extra time there, Mr. Caruth, so I could get my technology in place. We're really excited to talk to you guys. I know we spent some time during the study session going over this, but to review this for the public as well. And one of the things I just always like to start with is just say how lucky we are in Vail to have our technology and curriculum departments working so closely together. It's such a blessing working with Miss Debbie Penn, but historically it's been like that for a really long time. And I think a lot of our success comes from that partnership. And instead of kind of IT and curriculum being on separate sides of the house, maybe not always getting along, we have a really great relationship and work integrating together to make sure we can provide the very best for our students. This evening, we're gonna just talk about where we are now, what EdTech is and what those standards are and the difference that it can make in the instruction that we provide for our students. Technology is very different than it was 20 years ago, where students used to go to the computer lab with their teacher and then their teacher would take them back to the regular classroom where they wouldn't do computers anymore. Well, now technology is fully integrated with everything we do. And it's just woven into all of our core subjects. And it's really how we use that in ways to collaborate and be creative and empower those students for that future that they're going to be facing when they leave us. So it's really just taking these pieces and it's very integrated in a lot of the things that we're already doing with curriculum and our healthy classrooms and engagement. Some of the work that we've been doing has been very intentional, and I just want to point out, in addition to our EdTech standards, we worked with our community for about 9 months to create a values-based document around technology and the use of that. And so it was very intentional to have that balanced technology use, prioritize privacy and online safety, and then include some of these EdTech standards like digital citizenship and ethical use of technology into that, and really embrace that power of educational technology. And so when we have our common technology values, that's like our values-based lens that we use to make those decisions. And we have our EdTech standards as well. And that really becomes like that framework. Those standards are the framework. So we have the values and the framework together, and we combine those pieces to really help us make those decisions. So when things like AI come along, there's going to be another thing 5 years down the road. And this document that's kind of hard to see is just our guardrails around AI that we developed last year, as we're slowly and safely getting into how we're going to use that in our instructional system. But this is just one example of why we need that to be values-based with a EdTech standards framework. So that way, when that next thing comes along, we can kind of stand the test of time with that values-based approach. So we're going to take a moment to talk about EdTech standards. And I'll have Emily Marshall speak to this. Emily, just so proud of her. She's led really so much of this effort. She's developed a education technology leadership team. So she's helping to build capacity, but her leadership in this effort has really just brought us, leaps and bounds over the last several years. And so Emily's going to talk through what the EdTech standards are and how they're integrated into our instruction and give some examples around that. So Emily, take it away.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to talk about these standards. Not everyone gets excited about standards because often they're very boring and just like what we work towards. These are really cool because they were developed by VUSD, which is the world's largest professional organization for integrating technology into the classroom. The ADE and our Arizona group of educators took the ISD standards and expanded them so that we have a really good framework, like Mark said, for integrating them into the classroom. These are really important because as we think about AI and the way the shifts we need to make in instruction to meet that need, this is a really good framework. It's almost like a lighthouse for how do we do that successfully. It makes it very concrete, those steps that we need to take. I think Mark alluded a little bit to this. This isn't, take kids to the technology room to learn these standards. These are built to be integrated into every content area, every grade level from kindergarten up to 12th grade. And of course, it looks different if you're working with kindergartners versus 12th graders. But that is exactly why ADE expanded the standard and gave us a very clear picture of what they should look like. How do we scaffold them to meet the needs of different grades? I hate that they're called EdTech standards. For people that have heard me talk about EdTech for a really long time, sometimes that feels like something we can opt out of or it's not important. But these standards are very much life skills. So this table was created by the National Association of College and Employers. These are skills employers are looking for when they're hiring today. And you see things, the biggest one is problem solving skills and abilities to work in teams and communication skills. And why these are things that kids learn naturally in the course of their public education. It's not necessarily always something that's explicitly taught. So when we marry these EdTech standards with our traditional curriculum, it really gives kids the ability to learn these kind of soft skills, whether it's communication and presenting, working with others, with the standards that we're already teaching them, whether it's social studies, science, math, etc. These are just some examples of what that might look like in the classroom when we start marrying the EdTech standards with our traditional curriculum. This is an example from one of our teachers that was an EdTech champion last year. She's a teacher at Santaga High School who teaches math. And she took the Empowered Learner standard. So the activity she was doing with students was just studying for a quiz. Traditionally, you might see, a worksheet or games or things like that with kids studying for a quiz. But she took the Empowered Learner standard, which talks about seeking feedback to inform learning, and married it with that studying for a quiz in a collaborative whiteboard. So kids had to post what they learned, how they were going to study for this test, how they were going to perform on the test, and then they had to get feedback from each other. So they used a tag model in which they tell each other something they like, they ask a question, and they provide a suggestion to their classmates. So not only were they studying for the test, they were also studying digital citizenship skills, such as appropriate use of online technology and communicating with each other. Another example at a middle school level is Allie Myers, who is at Rincon Vista Middle School, another EdTech champion. Traditionally, kids might get one way to learn a standard, but she took the EdTech standard of knowledge constructor, where kids practice and improve their research strategies to support real-world learning, and gave them multiple options. So they got to pick what they were learning. So within the standard, they had multiple options of the way, the topic they were learning and how they were learning it, and then how they were sharing that knowledge. And then finally, I love using a kindergarten example because most people think of technology not being in kindergarten, and it does definitely look different. But this is some pictures from Eric Halifax at Cottonwood Elementary School. They were learning about different cultures. And traditionally, you might have kids listening to music or watching a video or maybe reading a picture book. But he actually connected his kids with classrooms in Mexico where they got to talk in both English and Spanish and share each other's culture. So again, learning the curriculum, but they were also learning how to pay attention and ask appropriate questions and respond to each other. So really cool ways to get kids actively engaged in their learning. Mark talked about this, and Vale's been doing a really good job of embedding technology in curriculum for a really long time. I'm really thankful I get to work with Ms. Debbie Penn and with Mark, making sure that those aren't siloed departments, but that we work together in that intentional partnership. So as in Vale, we're working on healthy classrooms and active engagement. We're taking the things we're doing in technology and we're marrying it with the goals the district already has. With that comes expanding capacity. So over the last probably 5 or 10 years, we've been adding a lot of different teams throughout the year to really meet the needs of our teachers, and these are just some of them. This decertification is a really in-depth certification that requires a lot of work from our teachers. There's only about 75 people certified in Arizona, but we have 13 of them in Vail and 8 more in progress. That allows us to really change what's happening at schools. It flips how you teach with technology. Unfortunately, it is a lot of work, so we don't always have a lot of people doing it. To further expand capacity, our EdTech leadership team created the EdTech Champions last year. And this is a mini version of the ISTE certification where we have teachers learning all the standards, learning how to use them in their classroom, but doing it in a way that's a little bit easier and more manageable for our teachers' schedules. And that also allowed us to expand our EdTech coaching program. We've always done coaching in Vail in a lot of different ways, but EdTech coaching specifically requires people with in-depth knowledge of the Arizona EdTech standards. It's not just, I love technology, so I'm going to do EdTech coaching. And so we used our EdTech champions to teach people really in-depth understanding of the EdTech standards and then expand that into coaching. So this is our first year where we have teachers doing EdTech coaching in our district. And then finally, we look for every opportunity possible to provide just-in-time training for teachers. We know they never have enough time. So we use things like our half days. We have annual EdTech conference. We have our technology advisory team does trainings. Just trying to find every opportunity possible to share EdTech knowledge that's applicable. You know, they come to training one day and they can put it in their classroom the next day. And then just finally some other initiatives many people may have heard of. Computer Science Advisory Team does Computer Science Night coming up in December, our STEM Showcase at Vail Pride Day, our Makeathon, which was formerly the Hackathon, and then some other opportunities that we continue to try to expand capacity with our district for these things. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark to talk about our skills.
Thanks, Emily. This last certification we wanted to talk about is a little different than some of the ed tech based ones. It's more geared towards IT leaders in K-12 education. And this one's nice because we can really start to grow some of our other technology leaders that want to expand beyond just the instructional technology pieces. So it's learning about leadership and the financial side and business planning and E-rate and all the sort of behind the scenes stuff, some of those IT things. And we've already got a few folks in Vail that have done this, as you've probably seen a theme here with the ISTE certification and this certification. I mean, we tend to have about like 20–25% of everyone in the state that has these certifications. And so that's kind of a great trend that we have going on in Vail. So I'm actually still working on getting mine scheduled here. You know, one of the things is once you got the keys to the car, there's the motivation to go get the driver's license maybe isn't there. But we do have some folks on our team working on this, and it's a really great one. That's just another kind of leg of that stool as well. So where are we headed and what does this look like in Vail? Well, we're definitely not plugging into the matrix like this photo here. We want to make sure that, like we've been sharing, technology is really integrated throughout. And that looks like collaborating and creating together and communicating together. And so what we're really doing is making sure we're providing more PD and support, incentivizing that PD with our teachers, encouraging exploration and growth with everyone, whether that's administrators, teachers, or students, and making sure we're celebrating those people that are coming up with those achievements and just highlighting all those positive outcomes. So really just preparing students for the world they're about to enter. All of these ed tech standards, they're life skills. They're things that we want our students to walk away with. They're things that Mrs. Penn is passionate about with just how we do instruction in Vail. And so we really want to make sure students are ready for that world. And hopefully that picture of them using technology looks a little more like this. It's very different than, you know, when we started Empire back in 2005, and it was very much about the device. Well, we've gone beyond that, and the device is a tool, but we want to make sure we're really utilizing how that technology can drive all of these other things and just be a tool in that process. So again, want to thank Emily so much and the ed tech leadership team. They've really done so much to drive this, and Mrs. Penn and myself just try and provide support to Emily and get out of the way so she can do great things. But really just wanted to share with you kind of where we're at on that front. And if you guys have any questions or comments, we'd be happy to take those.
Thank you, Mr. Breen. Mr. Marshall, any questions?
Mr. Buster?
Sir, you busted my bubble because I was getting a little vain there. I thought it was Ed's Tech. So now that I know it's education tech, I want to say that I know you put in a lot of work, dedication in regards to this and preparing it for the entire school district. and of course, preparing our kids for the world that is now and will be. So again, I'm geeking out, really excited about this as we move forward. And super cool digital tools for Vail schools. Well done.
Oh, love it.
That was good. Any other comments or
She's
questions?
fired tonight.
I just kind of related to this when you talked about the student collaborations pieces. I'm remembering just some conversations with other parents and also just a personal experience that I had where some of those collaborations that are being led by students are happening on social media. And my kiddos don't have social media. And so they're often left out of those things. And so I would love to see an intentional effort to provide tools to teachers and coaches specifically, to be able to provide those student-led collaborations to happen in a space that isn't social media, because it should never be.
Mr. Breen, you want to address that? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
happy to jump in, but when you address
Yeah,
that.
President Tippett, Mr. Caruth, members of the governing board. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's something that's front of mind for us, just in terms of trying to move people towards the district approved tools. You can imagine there's so much technology out there, and sometimes keeping everyone in the same kind of ring, so to speak, can be challenging. So, you know, we do our best in terms of trying to communicate what those tools are, providing a good vetting process. We have a vetting process to make sure it meets these standards, it's FERPA compliant, it kind of checks all the boxes. And we're also looking for what are those tools out there that, you know, kind of that shadow technology that teachers are maybe providing that for themselves. Is that because we're not providing that tool and that's something we need to look into? Or is it we have a tool that does that and we just need to guide them towards that? So those are some things that we think about a lot. I mean, we always like to get people to use our tools because they're safer, frankly. We can, you know, monitor what's going on. If there is an issue, we can get in there and see what's going on, where if it happens, you know, just out on Instagram or something, you know, when I give Instagram a call, they don't really care who I am and they're not going to share any information with me. So yeah, so it's a little bit of a challenge because there's so many things out there, and we want our teachers to have that creativity and feel empowered to do those things. But I'll be honest, it's a challenge to really, you know, police that too. But thank you for the feedback.
Mr. Breen, and Mr. Marshall, it's fair to say that that's really not a practice. The practice is to use the tools that we have approved. And if it's a tool that hasn't been approved, we're aware of that. That needs to be vetted so that we're aware and it meets certain digital privacy and safety standards.
Agree.
Yeah. So if you see some things I guess my other response is, if you see some things and you have questions about that, let the principal know, let us know here, because there is that fine line about what's being used and what can, you know, oh, this is a great thing, we're down that path, but we've made those guardrails pretty clear. It's got to be something that meets basic online privacy and standards, 1, and 2, it's got to be something that's available to all kids. It can't be,
Yep.
It's got to be available to all kids for whatever reason.
The scenarios that I'm mostly encountering are student groups that, you know, have self-selected, and now they're working on this assignment together, and they've all decided that Snapchat's how they're going to communicate. And I don't let my kids have social media. And so
What are the other formats?
What formats could the teacher include into the lesson plan that becomes a graded item? Because then that also teaches kind of that Slack piece that kids are going to need to learn as they move into the workforce. How do we work digitally in separate places together in a work environment on the same project? We use these project management softwares and things like that. So is there something that we can build into the assignment that this coordination piece is actually going to be graded because they need to learn how to do that. So just thoughts of a mom.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the work that you all are doing. And thank you to the board members for making all of this opportunity available. So, all right.
Thank you.
With that, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. My computer went to sleep. Are we on the Sorrel Creek?
EEPs.
Educational enrichment programs, Mr. Hoop.
Thank you, President Tippett, members of the board. You all are very familiar with the educational enrichment plan process. If you have scored round one, we're all involved in scoring round one. Just a quick recap for those who may be listening. Our educational enrichment plan process allows teachers to write a proposal for a plan or a program that will benefit students within certain criteria, usually around clubs and activities. That those plans are scored, and based on the score of that plan, they're awarded points, and those points are turned into a value of $200 for cash or $300 for a voucher amount, which can be used for things like tuition or purchasing technology. So this is actually round two, which opens after the school year for when there's maybe some plans that need to go back, or teachers who are new to us, but who are eligible for this, for the EEP plan process. So this round, there's a total of approximately 466 points are being recommended. The group that scored round two are teachers, Mrs. Maggie Gamble, Mrs. Rachel Tinkerly served as the administrative representation, and then Miss Allison Pratt, who scored those plans. So I'll go ahead and make the recommendation that the Vail School District Governing Board approve the educational enrichment plans and recommended point values as presented.
Presented.
Mr. Buster moves.
I'll second.
And Mrs. Anderson seconds. Any comments or questions on the EEPs? Not seeing any. I just want to go ahead and thank Mrs. Pratt for signing up for round two. Round one is tough, and 2 rounds is tougher. So thanks for taking one for the team and participating in it. The highlight of that, though, is getting to read all the EEP plans and hear all the really great things that staff are doing to enrich our schools here in our community. These are some really fun opportunities that kiddos are going to have the chance to plug into, from right flight to peer coaching and crocheting. Those are just 3 that I just saw right now. So if there are no more comments or questions, we'll go ahead and call for the question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Not seeing, and any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is Saguaro Creek K-8 school mascot and colors. Mr. Cruz.
Thank you, President Tippett and members of the board. Miss Kate Robold gets the honor of providing the Name Your Baby agenda item. Mrs. Robold.
President Tippett, Mr. Cruz, members of the board, it really is an honor. We had 20 committee members from the naming committee that recommended Saguaro Creek as a name continue and come back together in August to determine and make a recommendation for you tonight on the mascot and the colors. We spent a couple hours each night discussing the options. We had about 70 mascots submitted to us from our survey last year. We culled those down to 8 in our first meeting and really talked through the criteria that we set. We wanted to be brandable. We wanted to be cohesive with a name. We wanted to reflect the environment of the school, the natural habitat, a few other pieces of criteria. We drilled it down to 8. I'm going to tell you what they are, just so you kind of have an idea. They were cub, kestrel, which is a bird, raptor, sidewinder, owl, bat, sentinel, like the guard, and monsoons. And we talked about these, we compared them with our criteria, and then I did something fun with about 150 of my Ocotillo Ridge students who live in the Saguaro Creek boundaries. I met with them and I walked through the options with them and asked them to tell me what they thought. And they told me across all grade levels that Sidewinder was their favorite. And the committee also separately agreed that the Sidewinder was their favorite. In addition, we talked long and hard about the colors. That came a little quicker. And the colors that were discussed that were not used across other schools, similar to the Sidewinder. We don't have a Sidewinder here in Vail. Was the colors a dark green and a copper. We're using a rust color. The Saguaro Creek neighborhood, Diamond Ventures and Rocking K uses a dark green color for part of their branding. So we're trying to be good neighbors. And we also really like the colors. So I'll let Mr. Caruth make the recommendation, but just wanted to provide a little bit of background information for you.
Thank you, Mrs. Robold. And thank you for your efforts and Mr. Carney's in leading that process. And pretty unique opportunity to be the principal of a brand new school and be the one who gets to shepherd the name the baby of that new school. So with that, I'll make the recommendation the Vail School District Governing Board approve the mascot and colors of Saguaro Creek K-8 school as presented.
I'll accept a motion.
Make a motion to accept the color scheme as presented.
Seconded.
Mr. King moves and Mr. Buster seconds. Any comments or questions? Mrs. Pratt?
If it can't be Wampus Cat, then this is the next.
Did you make that
Concession.
suggestion?
I tried. I actually tried to plant it with a member of the committee, but it clearly didn't go anywhere.
Like any of my ideas.
Anyways, it's very cute and great job.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. King?
My absolute favorite colors. So,
Seriously?
Excellent.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Gold. So I'm waiting for the t-shirt.
I
Different places. So.
it does.
Mrs. Robold.
President Tippett, Mr. Crew. We do have paint swatches. If you would like me to send those to Mr. Caruth, I can do that. I think we can get those.
You're good. I'm good. I'm looking forward to it. That's awesome. Thanks.
This is kind of the gravy that kind of goes on the top of doing the hard work of launching a new school. And I love that you brought the kids into it and asked them what they thought. And a Sidewinder is pretty fun. What was the bird?
Kestrel.
Kestrel. I can't imagine why they didn't choose that. But this will be very easy to remember. And I think the kids clearly will love it.
Just if I can make one more comment before the vote. Yes, this is gravy on top. It's also a very poignant moment. In the history of doing school, there are very few things that you will do that will persist 50 years from now.
Mhm.
What this group is bringing forward and what you're about ready to take action on will persist 50 years from now as the colors of a school and the mascot of a school and the name of a school long after we are all gone from this dais. So I just, yes, it is gravy on top, but it's also a really cool moment. So
Thank you for that. All right, well, for this very cool moment, I'll go ahead and call for the question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is adjournment. I'll accept a motion.
So moved.
Mrs. Pratt moves.
Second.
And Mr. Buster seconds. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Thank you. All right, well, thanks for stalling.
Yeah.